Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and horror. Today we will explore the secrets of Peridon, unveiling the mysteries and horrors that hide in the misty alleys of this great metropolis. First, some brief clarifications. The great Glenn from Mr. Welch channel invited me to participate in a project to celebrate 50 years of D&D. In this incredible video, he brought together a team of 50 YouTubers to talk about their experience with D&D and RPG, what makes this game so unique and important for these content creators, and what makes this game so unique and important for these content creators. I felt honored by the invitation to be alongside great colleagues and well-known names in the scene, and I'll leave the video link below so you can check out the result. These videos and the next ones on Peridon are a partnership with my friend Jason from the Ravenlord channel. While my channel will do the traditional exploration of Peridon, revealing its history and secrets and its Dark Lord Soto, the Ravenlord channel will cover the macabre story of the Fang of Nosferatu, an evil artifact in the form of a dagger, which is intrinsically linked to the history of this domain and its mysterious killer, the Bloody Jack. If you are a fan of Ravenloft and still don't know the Ravenlord channel, I strongly recommend that you subscribe to the channel and check out his videos about the mysteries of Ravenloft. I will leave a link to the video about the Fang of Nosferatu and the channel in the video description. Before exploring the Xerisha cluster and the domain of Peridon, most of our exploration through the mist took place in the core of Ravenloft, and passed through domains that had already been covered in novels, adventures, and mainly in the Ravenloft Gazetteers, books that bring detailed information about the domains and their Dark Lords. I have always been careful to present Ravenloft in my videos, taking into account official sources. However, in the case of Peridon and other areas not previously covered by the Ravenloft Gazetteers, I intend to expand these sources of information. Peridon first appeared in the first box of the setting as the domain of Xerisha, encompassing not only the metropolis but the area that surrounded it. In the Grand Conjunction, the mists advanced over these lands, making the domain just its metropolis, surrounded by the mists, and integrating its underground areas into the domain of Tibor. The domain was further explored in the adventure Hour of the Knife, which later received an unofficial sequel on the Secret of the Kaghaten website, called Shadow of the Knife, and received mentions in the Ravenloft's Red Box and in the book Domains of Dread. In the third edition, the book receives a mention in the main book, but the domain was not covered in one of the published gazetteers. The Ravenloft fan community wasn't going to let the set rot in oblivion. The Fraternity of Shadows website, the best known and most organized fan site in the setting, has published netbooks that continue the Gazetteer's proposal, exploring in depth the domains of dread. One such Gazetteer, published by the Fraternity of Shadows, addresses the Xerishan cluster. In the video description, I will leave the link where you can download this netbook. The next videos about Peridon will be based on the official material, the Shadow of the Knife adventure, and the Xerisha Gazetteer. Are you ready? After escaping the horrors of Timor, we finally emerge from the sewers to reach the busy streets of Peridon and search for a way to return to the core and resume our search for Dr. Rudolf von Richten. However, our efforts are interrupted by our curse of lycanthropy. When the full moon rises in the skies of Peridon, we are transformed into lupine beasts and wreak death and havoc on Peridon. We have few memories of this night of horror, but we woke up the next day in torn clothes and covered in blood. We soon realized that a group of policemen and an angry mob were on our trail, and we sought to flee through the alleys of Peridon. As we flee, we notice a figure trying to get our attention, offering us shelter through a narrow door into an underground passage. Pursued and cornered, we accept the offer of shelter, but soon we are victims of a trap, and we fall into a narrow cell with reinforced bars. Our captor has not yet revealed his identity, but he appears to be some kind of a reporter looking for a scoop, and says he will return later to interview us. After a while, we got used to the low light in our cell and the environment, and we can see through the bars. We are in a basement, in some kind of clandestine newspaper office. The walls are covered with a map of the city full of pins, where several old news articles are hung and scattered around the place. Without knowing the identity of our captor, and without a way to escape our prison, we try to unravel the mystery by reading these strange articles and conspiracy theories spread across the wall of the place. Hour of Raven. The darkness of Peridon's alleys and its constant fog hide many secrets from unwary eyes, and some of their horrors manage to hide in plain sight amid society. After the Grand Conjunction, when the mists threatened to engulf the city and isolated it from the rest of Zeritia, this metropolis' salvation from famine and chaos came from its privileged position among the mists, and the existence of several mistways, which make of Peridon a crossroads in the demiplane of dread. Exploring these mistways is not always safe, as many of them are not two-way paths and can be unreliable. Many travelers have disappeared forever into the mists after venturing on these trails, but necessity made the explorers of Peridon brave these paths with courage and method. At least 4 mistways have already been catalogued in the city, leading to different destinations. The Shrouded Way is a reasonably reliable two-way path that connects the South Shore district to Martyria Bay in Darkon. Many believe that this is the path that the infamous Bloody Jack used to escape after his cycle of murders. Another mistway is known as the Iron Way, connecting the district of Shadewell to another metropolis, the polluted and pestilent city of Knossos. The Ushant Path is another overland mistway, but it is a one-way route. This route usually appears randomly in alleys of large cities in Nova Vasa, which brings the unwary to Peridon, amid the dangerous slums of the Blackchapel district. However, the most important mistway is a naval route, which connects the south of the Nordinal River, below the dock districts, to the Sea of Sorrows, in a location near the island of Blaustein. This reasonably reliable mistway is called the Royal Channel, and is the main vein of trade with other domains. Before the tragedy of the Grand Conjunction, the trade with other nations of the Demiplane of Dread was carried out mainly by aristocrats, who were members of the distinguished Zeritian Cartographic Society. But the dangers and the need to venture into the mistways gave way to the rise of the group called the Captains of the Mists. This group is organized as a society, based at the Crimson Club, and has its own moral and honor codes, by which its actions are guided. Unlike many of Peridon's exclusive high society clubs, anyone can be admitted into its ranks, provided they have completed at least one successful trading expedition into the mists. Most of its members are half Vistani, who, despite not having complete control over the mists like their ancestors, have a strong intuition about how to navigate and explore the mists. Through these captains of the mists and the navigation of the Sea of Sorrows, Peridon has reached distant places and markets, becoming a great merchant nation. Its strategy To ensure priority and exclusivity in the trade of these products in distant lands is through the Zerisha Merchant Colonial Company, which tries to establish colonies in foreign lands, having already done so in 3 different locations. The most successful of these colonies is established in Sri Haji, where Peridon managed to trade spices, fabrics, and rare jewelry. The commercial settlement is well established, but still encounters resistance from the upper castes of Sri Haji society, and recently some Peridoners have come under attack from the religious group known as the Sisters of Kali. A settlement has also been established in the lands of Harakir, although the desert lands have very little to offer in the way of trade. Under the allegation of studying its history, many archaeologists have been sent to these lands in search of its riches, the ancient treasure and relics stored in its ruins, temples, and sumptuous tombs of its pharaohs. These artifacts are displayed in the Museum of Peridon and have become a fever among aristocratic collectors, but many attest that some of them carry terrible curses. Finally, the most recent and still unstable of these commercial settlements arrived at Rokushima Taiyo. In these lands, however, there is a great cultural shock and strong resistance to the presence of foreigners, and small transgressions can be taken as offense against honor and punished by execution. These lands are in a great internal conflict, and the Peridoners must deal carefully with different rival warlords in their attempt to establish themselves in the region. All this trade has also brought a number of foreigners to Peridon, and most of them settle in the South Shore district. A recent murder of an aristocrat revealed ritual elements and the presence of the followers of the Sri Raji Sister of Kali faith. And a renowned herbalist from Rokushima Taiyo is also gaining fame in the city. The elderly Yasuo Kumoda lives with his daughter Yokiro in the city and prepares miraculous pills, medicines, ointments and potions with exotic herbs. Its most famous product is a youth elixir that has been highly sought after by the aristocracy. Yasuo is a necromancer who took refuge in Peridon after being banished from Rokushima Taiyo, with the help of a Kenku servant that he hides in the attic. He kidnaps and kills street urchins and buries them in his garden, where he grows a special type of mushroom called the Death Whispers. The elixir made by mushrooms can rejuvenate the user, but Yasuo is selective to those who he provided services, bargaining for more and more influence at the highest levels of society. His daughter, Yokiro, is always blindfolded, and it's not really related to him, being his arcane familiar, a strange creature with serpent eyes. The Peridoners consider themselves to be an enlightened and civilized people, superior to other cultures and races, which can be seen even through their religious and philosophical beliefs. Perhaps because they have been deprived of the rest of the nation of Zerisha, they have a great fascination with foreign cultures and a morbid attraction to everything that deviates from their standard of normality. Taking advantage of this cultural bent is one of the city's strangest attractions, the Elimak, or Elucidating Museum of Anthropological Curiosities. This museum is located on the South Shore district, close to the Freak Street, and began as a freak show to explore Caliban deformities, but today is secretly run by a group of Calibans and exposes all kinds of curiosity capable of arousing morbid interest. Its most popular attraction is the live exhibits, which featured everything from exotic animals and beasts in cages to simply people from other cultures or someone who has a deformity. It is known by most that many of these exhibitions are fake, with actors hired for an exaggerated theater, but none of this diminished their eager audience. Recently, they added to their beastly menagerie some animals captured on an expedition in the verdant lands near Srihaji, with a gorilla, two colorful parrots, and a panther. However, the administrators are unaware that these animals were captured from the wildlands, where all beasts are endowed with great intelligence and a disregard for humanity. Led by Mr. Silver, the enormous gorilla, these beasts can escape their cages whenever they want, but they prefer to secretly pose as innocent common animals. However, when Elimac goes out of business and they are left alone, they command a criminal group of assassins, using the parrots as messengers and committing brutal crimes and murders on the streets of Peridon. Peridon's curiosity is not only directed towards the other and the morbid, and this society reinvented itself after the tragedy, based on the search for knowledge and scientific method. Its university is home to some of the most brilliant minds in the Land of the Mists, and has become a renowned center of knowledge. Its advances and discoveries have great practical application, and many claim that Peridon is already ushering a new era, the Steam Age. Its steam-powered engines are in operation in the industrial machinery of its factories, and some prototypes of vessels promise to revolutionize the way ships move across the oceans and rivers. All these advances meet some resistance, however. A group of workers, realizing the replacement of their labor by machinery, came together in a group called the Zeretian Brothers of the Land, who believe that all this technological advancement only comes to enslave and subjugate the workers. Using guerrilla tactics, they have sabotaged machines and caused great losses to industrialists. Patrols have been put in place to watch factories, and there is a reward for saboteurs, but those who inform on their colleagues often suffer serious retaliations, courtesy of the King of the Slums, a mysterious figure who commands this operation. In addition to Peridon's technological developments, the University of Peridon reviews many great scientists and doctors, and one of the names that passed through its renowned university was Dr. Daclaud Heimfroth, from the lands of Gundar. Perhaps few know that this doctor is the same Dr. Dominiani who today commands the island of Dominia, but one of his disciples still works in the city. Dr. Longwell was an apprentice to the renowned psychiatrist Daclaud Heimfroth, but after some sort of disagreement with his master, he came back to Peridon and established Dr. Longwell's home for the wayward youth. Using his techniques of corrective education and mental conditioning, he has helped many delinquent and rebellious youths to become more obedient and peaceful. Longwell's cruel methodology and fake clinic hide its monstrous nature. He was one of the first cerebral vampires created by Dr. Daclaud Heimfroth, and needs to feed on brain fluid. Some accident in the method of his transformation left him with a strange diet limitation, and he is unable to feed on adults. The troubled youth sent to him suffer from his scientific methods and become his nourishment, leaving his clinic sweet and apathetic, an empty shell of what they once were. Another doctor and scientist from Peridon is Dr. Niles Patterson, who has an institute of teratology dedicated to the study of human anomalies. This scientist originally lived in Knossos and had a Caliban sister, whose existence was hidden by the aristocratic family. Blackmailing his father with this secret, he obtained financing for his studies in Peridon, and today he has a clinic specially dedicated to serving and studying Calibans. His specific audience recently led him to a new discovery when he came in contact with the Remans, a group of Calibans who rarely surface and are said to live in the tunnels deep within Peridon. Dr. Niles Patterson has also heard terrifying reports of a new type of monstrosity lurking throughout Peridon. A new strain of vampire, the Caliban vampire, roams the city at night in search of blood and offers a new kind of challenge to those who dare confront this undead. Caliban's vampires have their body deformations further exacerbated by their transformation, and their hideous appearance often paralyze their victims. Their touch can cause bodily deformations, which they use as revenge against those who despise them while alive. They appear to be able to command rats, spiders, and other vermin, and can teleport and move between large piles of rubble and trash. Their greatest weaknesses are related to birth. They are repelled by any object that reminds them of babies or childbirth, and are unable to enter a house where a birth has occurred for at least a month. The amniotic fluid from childbirth also burns them as if it were acid. The urban legends of Peridon are also filled with other monsters and creatures of the night. Perhaps one of its most macabre legends involves Peridon Bridge, the enormous bridge that crosses the Nordnau River, connecting the two sides of the city. Legend says that no engineer could build the foundations of the bridge over the Nordnau River, and that a powerful wizard was consulted for this feat. A skilled necromancer, he secretly used the bodies of the city's dead to create a living wall, a grotesque and hideous type of undead construct, which became the foundation of the bridge. When the bridge was finally built, he revealed the secret to the city and said that bodies should be thrown from time to time at the base to feed his creation. The city turned against him and killed the necromancer, but the legend survived in children's songs and in the city's folklore. Perhaps for this reason, the place reveals itself to be the destination of many bodies discarded by criminals, tied to rocks so that they sink to its base. Peridon Bodies has also proven to be a profitable business. The city laws allow the bodies of convicted criminals and indigents to be acquired, and many are purchased by the university for medical studies. Peridon also became an exporter of embalmed corpses to other centers of medical or arcane studies. The Hanover brothers are experts in receiving, embalming, and preparing bodies properly for transportation and exportation. Many say that their laboratory is haunted, or accuse them of disappearing bodies for criminal activities, or even receiving illegal bodies, paying grave robbers for such acts. Among other horrors that plague Peridon, sinister rumors say that the Black Chapel district and its dangerous alleys are the hunting ground for human and monstrous predators, such as red widows and jackalwares. The jackalwares are supernatural predators that can shapeshift to pose as humans to hunt among their prey. A clan of these creatures had established themselves on Peridon and allied with the sinister forces behind the Bloody Jack cycle of murders. Their involvement and betrayal was discovered by the mysterious Sodo, the fearsome Dark Lord of Peridon, and they were lured into a terrible trap. Lured underground at the Museum of Peridon, they were sealed alive there, and the wall that trapped them sealed with jackal bones, in an enchantment that would prevent them from any chance of escaping. What would lead them to die of hunger and thirst in the darkness was avoided, however, thanks to a small underground passage that took them deep into Timor. Today, the Jackalware hunt and try to survive in Timor, in a constant war against the Marikids, and are still unable to find a way to the surface. If someone were to tear down the walls or remove the jackal bones, however, these angry and enraged Jackalwares would escape to the Peridon Museum and into the city again. Perhaps the most feared creatures in Peridon are the legendary Dread Doppelgangers, grey-skinned, amorphous humanoid creatures that can metamorphose to take over and steal the identities of their victims. Little is known about these creatures, but some doctors and specialists from the University of Peridon believe that these creatures are organized into clans, and that although trained to keep the presence of their community secret, they have a great internal conflict for power. Some medical studies say that its ability to shapeshift comes from a metamorphosis gland located below the brain, and which can activate skin chromatophores and altering bone and muscle structure. Fear and interest in these creatures grew dramatically after 742, following yet another cycle of Bloodjack murders. A group of foreign adventurers claimed to have proof that Peridon society was secretly infested and controlled by doppelgangers. These adventurers mysteriously disappeared after such revelations, but the impact of their accusations is felt to this day in Peridon society, which has considerable fear of the doppelganger threat. Paranoia prevails among the population, and many believe that the only way to avoid becoming a target of these creatures, capable of emulating even traits of the victim's personality through psychic means, is to specialize in a craft, sport activity, or field of knowledge, making it difficult for these identity thieves to steal their identities. These monsters are directly linked to the actions of the legendary killer known as Bloodjack, who every 13-year cycle commits a series of brutal murders in the city. All these murders are carried out through the Fang of Nosferatu, a powerful evil artifact, a blade that grants supernatural powers to its user. Every 13 years, 6 victims need to be killed on 6 consecutive nights, exactly at midnight, and the owner of the dagger will absorb their emotions and energy, becoming invulnerable. Once the ritual is completed, the owner will not age and will remain practically immune to most weapons and magic. This weapon has been in the hands of the mysterious Sodo for centuries, but he is unable to use it properly due to a terrible curse. Thus, he uses his doppelganger agents, wearing gloves, to murder the victims, and give him the dagger after the murders to become invulnerable. In 742, however, one of Sodo's main minions, the doppelganger Roja, who used the identity of the aristocrat Sir Edmund Bloodsworth, decided to betray his master and use the dagger for his own benefit. He almost completed the cycle of murders, but was stopped by a group of adventurers before he could complete the ritual. The actions of these adventurers exposed the doppelgangers and caused havoc in Peridon society, but Sodo managed to recover the Fang of Nosferatu and restarted the cycle of deaths, ensuring his immortality. Roja escaped with his life, but was captured and tortured by Sodo. Trying to find a cure for his illness and curse, Sodo used Roja as a guinea pig for several alchemical experiments, which had the unexpected result of turning Roja's body completely invisible. The infamous Roja managed to escape, and now, driven mad, he is obsessed with destroying his rival Sodo and exposing all doppelgangers. Nicknamed by the press as the Invisible Man, he enjoys the growth of his fame and the terror he causes, and is a terrible rival for Sodo. During the course of the 13 years between 742 and 755, Peridon began to experience contact with the domain of Timur, who is now below the city. Rumors began to circulate about how the city's sewers have changed, and about hideous, dark and grotesque creatures emerging from the sewers to hunt. The Merikids are grotesque creatures that inhabit Timur's subterranean domain, and made Peridon their new hunting ground, and their Hive Queen also infiltrate her agents, partially taken by Timur's twist on the surface, to act on her behalf. A secret war is now being waged by doppelgangers and Merikids, and Sodo's agents attempt to silence any evidence of their attacks. These tensions only increased when Bloody Jack's next cycle of murders began. Fearing betrayal from his agents, Sodo hired the service of Emil Bolenbach, a mad scientist, to help him create a terrible doppelganger golem, made from the bodies of doppelgangers, and which fed on the victims' brains to steal their identity. A group of adventurers intervened to stop Bloody Jack's murders at the hands of the golem commanded by the scientist. But in the confusion of the battle, the Fang of Nosferatu was stolen by the Merikids and the Hive Queen of Timur. At great cost, the artifact was recovered from the depths, and ended up once again in the hands of Sodo, who managed to restart and complete the cycle of murders. While all these creatures of darkness fight in the shadows of Peridon, a battle for narratives raged in its newspapers. The city main newspaper, the Newsbill, is infiltrated by doppelgangers and is under the influence of Sodo's servants. One of its former journalists, William Thompson, in 755, had the audacity to publicize and defend the mysterious shadow monsters that seemed to confront the deeds of Bloody Jack, and was dismissed from the paper. The tireless Thompson did not give up, and created the Disclosure, a sensationalist tabloid in which he tries to reveal the truth behind the countless secrets and horrors that inhabit Peridon. Although he believes in his journalistic cause, the journal is discredited by the majority of Peridoners. But it is a great commercial success due to the population's morbid curiosity and thirst for conspiracy theories. In our cell, in the basement of a clandestine newspaper, we wait for our captor and analyze the various articles spread across the walls. The secrets of Peridon are revealed before our eyes, if we can believe the content of these news and conspiracy theories. After a while, our treacherous captor arrives at the place, and we beg him to release us, but he does not accept our pleas. "You are covered in blood of victims, and I will not let you escape. You better reveal the truth, and then you can be judged properly." For hours, we try to argue without success, and little by little, he extracts information from us in an interview. "Incredible! This will be the Disclosure's biggest scoop. A Barovian werewolf in Peridon. Too bad the next full moon is so far away. Some scientists and members of the Temple of Divinity of Mankind would love to examine you or your bodies." The journalist then begins to assemble a strange piece of machinery, a daguerreotype, to take a photograph of us. He brings the camera closer to the cell, to better focus on our phase between the bars, but we do not collaborate with his intention. When he starts to get nervous about our behavior, we take advantage of a moment of carelessness and grab him by the collar, slamming his face against the cell several times. Our violence makes the journalist lose consciousness, and we search his pockets for keys. Freed from the cell at last, we took Thompson's notes from our interview and fled the scene. Once again in the streets of Peridon, we sought refuge in an abandoned house to spend the night, and the next morning we will look for a way to leave the city of Peridon. Out of curiosity, we analyzed Thompson's documents and notes in which our interview was recorded, and discovered that he also carried a complete dossier on the mysterious figure of Sodo, given to Mr. William Thompson by someone who signed simply as the Invisible Man. Join us, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications, and together we will unravel the mysterious identity of Sodo, the Dark Lord of Peridon.